So, first of all, welcome back to the podcast. It's really nice to have you. And just to kind of like recap people, last episode that we recorded together, we were really focused on like the co-parenting piece, because that's what your experience has been.
That's my life.
And also talked about like what you do in your practice and what you're focused on at work, and what you want to offer women, especially postpartum. So we'll continue to dig into that, but yeah, I mean, let's just address what's going on. We're recording on the heels of something pretty intense that happened this week. Yeah. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Yeah. And I think I do want to recognize one thing is you and I have met outside of the podcast. We had a really fun time.
It was great.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
We're doing it again soon, hopefully.
Yes.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways I took from our meeting together was that you can have friendships with people that you don't always align on everything on. Yeah. You don't always agree.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
you don't always agree with.
Yeah.
And I remember saying this to my partner, like, you know, I think throughout the past few years, I wouldn't say that I've changed my mind on certain things, but I've definitely changed my approach. Mm-hmm. And I have tried to be more open to understanding why certain people might lean one way or another. Yeah. It doesn't mean that I have to change my mind, but I do think that we all have to come from a place of real understanding of each other and why we value certain things over others. Yeah. And none of it is wrong. I think that we're all just coming from, we're trying to be our best and do our best, especially when we're mothers. We're trying to really just choose the right path or do the best for our kids and set the right example for them. Yeah. In many ways. So this Charlie Kirk thing, I just want to say that I think it's horrific. Yeah. And I feel for his kids. I don't know if he has one or two. Is it?
He has two. Yeah. They're pretty young too. I don't know the exact ages, but I know one, is very much a toddler. Maybe one or two is what it seemed.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is true. So people can fact check this, and maybe I should fact check it.
That's okay.
But I know his wife was present, and I know his daughter was present, and someone said that when his little girl heard the gunshot, I don't know if she was seeing him, but she kind of like ran and was like, "Daddy!" Looking for him.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if this is true, but it's, even if it's not, still like imagine just being there as a 3-year-old or however old she is.
I cannot imagine.
And the thing that was horrible to me too was that when you open social media, this video was just everywhere. Oh yeah. Everywhere. Yeah. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, typically you don't see videos like this that are so graphic, but lately I've been seeing a lot of very graphic videos, not just related to Charlie Kirk, but in general, like things that are happening in Gaza. And just like, why are our kids are looking at this stuff, like, and how do you control that? And his kids are going to see this one day.
Oh yeah. So as a therapist, I hear a lot. I walk alongside. I made a post about this on my Instagram, actually, because it's been a very reflective week for me. And as a therapist, I walk alongside a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. I hear a lot of things. So not that I get desensitized to it, but I'll be honest, like not a lot shakes me. Yeah. So, a couple of things in our world lately have, the floods in Kerrville, in Kerrville. Is that right? Am I getting that right? Okay. Yeah. In Kerrville. That really got to me, obviously, because I'm a mom. And I think about, you send your kids off to camp. Bye, honey. See you at the end of the week. And you don't pick them up. Yeah. And then this really got to me, too, because he's such an influential figure. It was, and I know our views differ, but I am a Christian. So it's so symbolic of some things, I think, in the Bible. But in addition to that, like you said, he's a human. He's a father. I can't imagine his wife and his kids and how they feel. I mean, it's just really heavy. I went on several walks. Exercise is important to me. So rather than hit the gym this week, I went on some walks and I just was in nature. And I was just so appreciative of the time I had with my daughter. And just, it makes you realize you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this was just going to be a typical college event like all of his other ones. And then, something like this happens. And I think it did get on social media really quickly. I think partly because it's a college campus and
Right.
You know, there wasn't a lot of, I don't know, I guess there was just people that were already recording, you know, because
it's a big event. I mean, I will say that the guy created a movement.
Oh, for sure.
And, you know, I didn't agree with, I would say 90% of what he said.
Yeah, totally.
But I can understand from because I've seen some clips where he talks about the importance of family. And when you see those clips and you remove everything else, you're like, there's a part of him that's a human and is a dad. And he really loved his family. And I don't want to take that away from him or anyone. Right. I wouldn't feel the same way if it was, I don't know, some dictator with blood on their hands. I wouldn't be like, oh, he was a human. I'd be like, no, you were a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But, you know, even though I don't stand by anything, a lot of the things that he stood for, when I see those little clips, and I have actually looked at his Instagram, like he loved his kids. Oh my gosh. And I just see it from a perspective as a mother. And if God forbid something like that happened to my partner, the void that this little boy will feel is huge, and the void that I would feel is huge. And I think that I don't agree with people, even, you know, me being a Democrat and whatever, I don't agree with people celebrating his death. I don't think it's worth it. I think that all it does is just create more divide. And to be honest, someone who I grew up in South America, and political violence has been a thing. It's very common. And that's what scares me the most, because now this puts any political commentator figure at risk.
It makes you feel like and maybe that's the goal, is like to make people be quiet. I don't know. I think a lot, like you said, you may not agree with a lot of what he said, you know, and even though I feel differently, his approach was just to debate people, you know, and I think, you know, he was a Christian conservative, so going to college campuses that research shows tend to kind of lean a little bit more to the left or liberal. I think that's a great place to go, to just have debates with people, to understand why they think one way and why he thinks another way. I didn't hear often that he said anything in terms of like hate speech. He had a strong opinion, but it makes you think, can we not talk about what we think and how we feel and what we believe, or will we be silenced?
Yeah.
And then, just the pain of, like you said, the family situation as moms ourselves. It hits different when you're a mom.
And I think what also scares me is what's going to come after, like what's going to happen now.
For
and
sure.
That's, and I don't want to also forget that while this was happening, there was also a high school shooting happening.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. What is going on in the world?
Yes. And so as a mom, I feel afraid of sending my kid to daycare, to school every day. And so what are we going to do about it? And I think it is time for there to be some sort of change. We can't be more protective of weapons than we are of our families. And I'm not saying take away the right to own a gun, have one, but can we just maybe have a little bit more parameters around owning one?
That's what I love right now is that you and I feel so differently, but we're sitting here and we're friends. And I think when we got together before, I mentioned that I have another friend that is more on the left side of things. And I haven't had a chance to connect with her since all this happened. But, you know, our friendship is 10 years, maybe more in the making. And we are still able to have these healthy conversations and can recognize on a emotional and logical level something like this and the impact it has on the U.S. and really the world.
The world. And honestly, that's you bring up a good point. The impact this has, no matter what side you lean on, it's impactful no matter what. Either people are angry or people are celebrating, or people are angry at the people celebrating, or the people. So everybody's mad at each other right now. And it's like, wait a second. It's creating something. It's creating a conversation. It might create more divide in a sense, but I think that ultimately we just have to kind of like realize that something's not working. Whatever that is, something's not working. And we need to do better as a society. I think that it's been, again, I'm really just afraid of what's going to happen next. And I don't want anyone, we United States of America should not be in this position. We shouldn't be.
No, we're very privileged.
I know. And so for things like this to happen is kind of like, wait a second, am I back in, you know, when you talk to people from like Venezuela or Cuba or Colombia, like these are things that have happened quite a bit in our in the history of these countries, and me as a Colombian, I didn't live
Yeah.
during a time in Colombia where there was a ton of political violence that I remember. But just recently, a few months ago, a political candidate was, or I don't know if he was a candidate yet, or he was just campaigning to be a candidate. He got murdered also.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this shouldn't be happening.
No.
You should be able to speak, and we can disagree, and I can hate what you say, and I can say, and and if it doesn't matter, this shouldn't be happening, so
yeah, you should be able to stand for something and voice your opinion and not be murdered for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been like a heavy week for sure. I love what I do for work, but actually this time, and when the floods happened, this time I felt really grateful. I didn't actually have a lot of clients to see on Friday, just because I needed some time for myself too. In some of the work that I do, it's a lot of listening. And I think that's why I'm so accepting too of everyone's different opinions. And I don't know if accepting, but open. Right? Because a lot of what I do when I listen to my clients, I have clients on both sides, and religious and not religious. And I have to, part of my job is to sit and listen and absorb and support. And when you're struggling with it too, as a therapist, it's like, wow, this is a really heavy day. It's a heavy day for myself. It's a heavy day of clients and what they're experiencing. So I was actually really grateful on Friday just to have time to reflect and kind of absorb and process what's going on. So
there's a lot happening. The floods thing. I know one of the women that lost her daughter. I don't know her, like we're not friends by any means, but years ago I met her at an event. This was pre-COVID, so I met her a long time ago, and she's an event planner here in Dallas.
Oh, cool.
And while I never was like friendly with her, it's just knowing that it's someone that was
like
in your like that you've met,
and
not just her story, but all the stories. Like all of this was just, I from what I've been reading, it looks like it could have been a little more preventable. There could have been some other measures in place to prevent this happening, or at least for it not to be as tragic, devastating. And like as a mom, you just start feeling things differently. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately, that my perspective on a lot of things has changed. The way that I approach things is different, but also standing up for myself. I think this past week, not just with the news, but in my personal life, there's been a lot of things happening that I've just been like, what do I want Palmer to see if he's ever confronted with situations like this that he feels are unfair? I don't want him to feel gaslit. I don't want him to be quiet. And so I need to start modeling those behaviors for him not to feel that way. So I've also been kind of like juggling that this week of like, I'm going through something really complex with my job. I'm going through something really complex with my family, not my partner, but like my extended family.
Sure.
And I've just been like, you know what? Nope. I need to start standing up better for myself, because I want Palmer to know that it's important to speak up and to have a voice. Yeah. So.
Well, I love that, because that's what I do. I love, as a therapist working with women, I feel like, and mostly moms, I feel like there is this transition from like not being a mom to being a mom, and figuring out what do I stand for? How do I advocate for that? You start to realize what an example you are for your kids, right? So, back in the day, they'd say, oh, do as I say, not as I do, right? We need to be doing it, as moms, because our kids are watching. And so like you're saying, just that feeling, that like empowerment to know where you stand on some things, and as a family unit, deciding how you want to raise your kids up and to teach them to think critically. That's a lost, I feel like that's a lost skill in this generation. It feels like a little bit. There's just kind of not a lot of critical thinking going on. And so we got to teach our kids to think critically and empower them to speak up for what they believe in. And going back to our differing beliefs too, I think that is a little bit why I'm open. We have all these upbringings. You have your Colombian background. My daughter's dad is Cuban, so we have connected on that before. We all have these different upbringings. So how do we get closer to what we need for our family and being able to stand up for that, teach our kids that, advocate for that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And part of critical thinking is being able to have these dialogues.
Yes.
You know, and just being able to walk away
just
saying like that was so valuable.
Yep.
It's not about changing people's mind. It's about just understanding that this entire world is filled with people with differing opinions.
Yeah.
It's not
opinions, religions,
everything,
cultures, you know, we have to have more tolerance to hear someone disagree with us. Mm-hmm. And that is a big issue lately. Seems to be, in my opinion, pretty low tolerance for someone having a different opinion.
Yeah. And I think that we're categorizing people very quickly.
Yeah.
When they do have a differing opinion. Like that happened to me this week.
Yeah.
And you know that I'm, very, you know where I stand. And I posted something where I spoke on gun violence and I spoke that what happened to Charlie Kirk was wrong. Yeah. And a friend of mine from DC took that did not take that message well. At all. And I heard her and I understood and I said, I want you to understand that like I'm not defending this man for what he did, like the things that he has said for people in your community, but I'm speaking from like one as a parent and two, I've experienced I have some knowledge of political violence based on what I've seen in South America. And I'm speaking from that point of view. Like I'm afraid of what's going to happen. Yeah. But there was no receptiveness to that. And so I just kind of like let it go because I know where my heart is and I know where my values lie, but I have not, I think I jumped off the very woke train a long time ago because I was. And
I understand.
Because I don't think that extremes are helpful. And I don't think that cancel culture is helpful. I don't think that if we want someone to, whether it's change their point of view or being heard, we can't do that by attacking another person. And that goes both ways. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to adopt that a little bit more, especially now that I'm in a partnership with someone who's a little more conservative than I am. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That has been something that we've had to, while we agree, I would say on like a lot of things. Yeah. There's just these like little things that we don't like. We totally agree on like the Charlie Kirk stuff. We agree on like, women's rights and reproductive health. Yeah. And then there's other things that we don't. He's a little more fiscally conservative and, his dad is oil and gas guy. So he's going to want, environmental stuff. He's like, nope,
nope.
Not about that. And it's okay. Like I get it, but it's the ability to being able to talk about those things and be like, okay, I'm going to walk away still disagreeing, but I hear you, I understand you. And that's it. Yeah. And as parents, we have to model that. And in fact, I had someone on my podcast, Amanda Montgomery. Nice. She's a lawyer and she is very vocal about politics on her Instagram. And we had a really great conversation. And one thing she said about dealing with conflict in front of your kids, she's like, of course you don't want to have a blow up fight in front of your kids, but they have to be able to see healthy dialogue and debates in your partnership. Yes. They need to know that mommy and daddy love each other, but mommy and daddy can also disagree and have a conversation about it. Yeah. And that stuck with me because I was like, I want my son, I don't want him to see blow up fights, but I want him to be able to see that we can have a conversation, disagree, and just have a dialogue.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think I love what she said in that because it's like the act of repair. So sometimes couples will fight and it is important for your kids to see that and hear that to an extent. Right.
Right.
But then, if it's not resolved right there in real time, you also want your kids to witness the repair. So don't go in your bedroom at 9 p.m. and repair by yourselves without your kids, right? Because then what they saw is unresolved conflict and mommy and daddy.
That's actually a good point.
So let's show them, come back and repair and hug and kiss in front of each other and be like, you know what, I was wrong, or, let's agree to disagree, or, hug it out, kiss it out, whatever. Do it in front of your kids so that they can see, okay, conflict is not scary. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be rejected, abandoned, etc. I can have conflict and I can see that it's repairable. Yeah. And I think that's so important. So just piggybacking off that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I love that. And yes, she actually had another good point. I'm trying to remember. She said that if 3 months have gone by and they haven't talked about, like, if there was a conflict and wait, was it 3 months? Oh no, you can't bring it up after 3 months. Like once you have a conflict, and even if it's resolved after 3 months, you cannot bring it up anymore. Like it's done. Like it's past. Like you can't squash it. Like you of course you want, because you know that sometimes we do that. Like we'll bring up something like, well, remember when you said this, even if it's resolved, but we just use it as kind of like a weapon.
Yes.
Which is one of the issues that I'm dealing with right now with my family. Something was brought up after 10 years. And I'm like, I'm not going to accept this after 10 years. You're going to, no. So that's what she was kind of like referring to. Like, if it's resolved, it's resolved. Yeah. And you maybe have 3 more months to kind of like get it out of your system. And then after that, you're done.
Yeah. So, don't like poke the bear with something that's been resolved in the future. Yeah. And weaponize it for sure.
Yeah. It's just not healthy. And that's kind of like where I'm at right now with this family conflict is, we have like a lot of stuff going on this side of the family. And when I had a bit of a blowout fight with my cousins, unfortunately, and something was brought up that I did 10 years ago. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to accept. If this was still unresolved for you, that is ultimately on you, because my perspective was that we had already resolved it. Yeah. If it was still unresolved, that is your responsibility to bring it up to me. Yeah. That's it.
And 10 years ago, we're different people. We're different times. Yes.
Totally different people. Yes. I was so immature. I was going through a huge life change, and now I'm a mom. I kind of like have a calmer life. Like I'm not the same. So yes. So it's not worth kind of like rehashing. And that applies to everything. Work, intimate relationships, like just you kind of have to learn how to move past conflict.
You do, and resolve it. Because if you just hold it within, you build up this resentment too. We have to resolve and forgive. And you know, if it's still bothering you, it might be something that you need to work out individually too. It may not be something that other person can even do or say to resolve it. If it's still 10 years from that, from now bothering you, I think you have to kind of work on that individually as well. You don't want the resentment to build, because it will come up, and it'll be like a little jab in a, conversation, and then it turns into a blow-up fight. And nobody's talking, and you're like, I'm not talking.
Well, it makes it worse, in my opinion. It's like now I was in shock when it was brought up. I was like, wait a second, I thought we were good.
Still holding this against me?
And I'm like, and I'm not going to accept it. Yeah. So that was one of the points where I'm like, boundaries. And I stood up for myself. I finally said it, and I was like, I'm not going to. Like, your family, I love you, but if this is something that is still lingering, then you kind of need to resolve it, because I'm not going to.
Yeah. At this point, there may not be anything, like I said, that you can do.
Yeah. And so, again, I think going back to like the motherhood thing and how like I want to model these behaviors for him is it has made me a little more, like, has empowered me to just be more vocal. And it's okay if that means sacrificing a relationship.
Yeah. Sometimes, relationships are for a season. And I think especially probably in your culture too, like family is family. You guys are like diehard family. I think in like Latin or Cuban, Hispanic culture, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, but it's family. Sometimes we need a break from family too. And, our friends can be our chosen family, and we do have to just take a break for a while from some relationships. And some are, like I said, just for a season. We may never revisit certain relationships for our own mental health, for the protection of our family, whatever that looks like. I definitely agree.
I don't think this one will be forever, but I think we need
a
little break.
I understand. I've been there.
So let's talk a little bit about what you have upcoming, because you have like a few things upcoming. I've seen you a little busier on your Instagram.
I'm trying.
I know creating content is it's time consuming.
It is. And I actually really love it. But in being a single mom, running a business, a lot of my time too is, what people don't understand is I see my clients during the week. And so, they understand that part, but what they don't understand is I'm in back-to-back sessions. So I'm not like working on content while I'm like in a therapy session. So it's kind of like being in a really intense meeting for an entire hour and, 25 hours plus a week. Some people are like, 25 hours a week. That's great. Well, I'm also picking my daughter up at like 2:30 from school. And, there's other aspects of the business that I have to run. So what tends to fall to the wayside is sometimes my social media and my, creativity around like what's next in the business, because that takes a lot of thought and a lot of time and intention, and I want to be really intentional with it. So I my daughter's in a 5-day-a-week program now at school, and she's loving it. And so that gives mom a little bit more time to think and breathe. Although I miss her quite a bit. But yeah, so I'm doing a little bit more social media presence, and then I'm trying to think how I want to expand and like reach more people, because I can only see so many like clients in a week.
Yeah.
And so to expand my reach, I'm looking on creating like a couple of guides for certain issues that tend to come up repetitively in my sessions with all different clients. And then just educating through social media. I want to expand my presence there so that people, if they can't afford therapy, or they don't have insurance, or, or they're just browsing, they're having a hard day and their therapy sessions next week, then they can go to social media and they can have a little bit of like, in the meantime, help.
Yeah.
So one guide that I'm doing first is the returning to work postpartum guide. And that's a big one.
What were some discoveries as you were making this guide? What were some things that you kind of like discovered that maybe you hadn't thought about, but maybe other people brought up while you were working on this?
That's a great question. So in some of the research I did, I found that 67% of women who go back to work within like 12 weeks struggle with it and their mental health significantly. It's like one of the top stressors in their life, and including in their marriage. And so I could guess that based on what my clients say. They have a really hard time dropping their kids off at daycare. That tends to be the harder one. So my kind of like hybrid clients, that is hard to balance everything, and they feel a huge like weight, mental load kind of shift that happens when they're no longer just focusing on baby and household stuff and their marriage or their relationship. Then they're having to balance all of that. But the ones that struggle the most are the ones that have to do daycare for extended hours, 5 days a week, and trust what they feel like is like strangers to watch their kid, essentially. Even though you go meet them, you're like, it's still kind of a stranger.
Yeah.
So they struggle the most because then they get home and they really only have like maybe 2 hours with their kids before the kids go to bed. And then they're, washing their pump and doing all of the, and then their husband wants their time too. And so, and rightfully so, right? They probably want time together too. So, I think the biggest thing was, I think some of it's in the research that I kind of did, is understanding the lack of support for women. Oh my gosh, here we go, politics again.
That's okay.
But understanding like the lack of support in the U.S. for women postpartum, I didn't realize how many moms are having to go back to work so early, many at like 6 weeks, and many at 2 weeks. Like, I'm still healing at 2 weeks. Okay. You do not want to see me 2 weeks postpartum.
Yeah.
And some women are going back to work. I think my mom said she went back to work she's older, but like 4 weeks postpartum. So I think some of the biggest things I noticed is like, wow, how do we support women when there's a system that makes it kind of hard to support women, right? Like we can only control what we can control, and we can't always control the system around us and the support we do or don't have. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is just learning about the U.S. system in terms of support postpartum in work and rights and some of that stuff. The big things that came up were just like communication with their partners, tons of grief around, I thought I was going to be okay with this and I'm not, and I have to do it anyway. And so now I have to grieve this idea of motherhood, that I really kind of wanted, but financially we can't afford. A lot of the mental load, tons of like marriage stuff comes up with like, my partner doesn't see all the things that I'm doing. I had, I don't want to speak directly to specific clients to protect their confidentiality, but I've had clients who don't even get allowance of time to like pump and stuff at work. So, and they're expected to do so very quickly, unrealistically quickly. So then there's a huge sacrifice, and a lot of women stop breastfeeding or pumping, right? Because I have 10 minutes and that's not even enough time to pump one boob.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest,
at least 15 minutes. I mean, I
Yes.
tried to breastfeed, but
Yeah.
and I pumped, but it was like it would
Yeah.
take me 25 minutes on each side.
Yeah.
And I had like the ones that you could just walk around with.
Yeah,
Or,
totally.
but I was like, no, I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore. But yes, it's just, man, I
It's a huge
keep going.
shift.
There's a lot.
You're
You're saying a lot that is, yeah. I mean, I was fortunate that I had the 16 weeks that I had with him.
Yeah.
But it's still not enough.
It's not enough. I know. Other countries get like a
needs
year.
me. I know.
Yeah.
And he still needs me. Like
Yeah.
at the beginning, for the most part,
Yeah.
all they do is eat and sleep.
Mhm.
And then they start growing, and then you have to do tummy time, and then you have to, and then they start, starting to explore. And
Yeah.
if I was working from home, he was with me for a whole year. We had people come help us twice a week,
Nice.
2 or 3 times a week. So it was nice and to an extent, but I still had to work.
Yeah.
And I still had
That
I
is
had a
hard.
go back to work plan. But after that back to work plan is up, after the whatever they gave me, I think it was like 90 days. No, was it 90 days or 60 days?
Yeah.
I'm expected to be performing.
Yeah.
I'm expected to have, to be back to normal. And it was around that time that my postpartum depression kind of like had started. It was
It can start
what,
later.
4 or 5 months later.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes. And I think when we think about like postpartum depression, a lot of people think it's like right after the baby or like, oh, within the first 6 months. Sometimes that can really spur, like the depression, anxiety can really be spurred by you going back to work and your kids being away from you. Like we're not meant to really be away from our babies. Like we are to the extent that we are, I am in support of moms taking care of themselves and building, their community and filling up their own cups so they can best serve their family. But we also, this idea that we're expected to work 40 plus hours a week and then somehow pick our kids up at 3 from school, daycare, whatever, and then come home and pump and clean, and cook and I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so I think
your brain is constantly jumping from one thing
going.
to the other.
Yeah.
Always.
And I think a lot of women feel their partners can't see that. And a lot of times they can't. They don't understand our brains. The biology between our brains, men and women, postpartum and post-children, quite frankly, is so different. And men tend to be a little bit more black and white, like problem, solution.
Yeah.
Something comes up, execution. And women are like struggling with decision making. And I bet if we had a man right here, he'd be like, oh yeah, she can't make a decision to save her life. Well, that's because she's trying to make 10 decisions at once. Okay. So the fact that she doesn't know what to cook for dinner, like she's
or that
already
she's upset or that she's stressed or that she's tired or that she's crying or that she just wants you to make a fucking decision.
Yes. 100%. Like that mom math, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so we're already thinking about tomorrow. Yeah. So decisions are very hard for us. And so, so this guide essentially is to really help moms cope with going back to work. So there's tips and strategies. There's some like facts and statistics in there, hopefully some reassurance, but I'm a direct therapist. So I am going to kind of tell you what the research shows to an extent. The idea is not to make you feel bad about your decision. It's to educate all of, it's kind of like if a doctor gives you a medication and then they don't tell you anything about it. I feel like part of my job as a therapist is to tell you the impact these things are going to have on your kids, potentially on you. And I'm not afraid to talk about those things, but it's definitely not with the intention to make you feel bad about a decision. It's just information so you can, if you need to adjust, you can, or if something comes up, you know that you were expecting it, right? And so there's some education in there. There's some like meditations in there, some affirming meditations that like if you're pumping at work and you cannot relax and so your supply is affected, it's just to affirm you and that you're doing the best that you can as a mom. There's affirmations. What else is in there? I know I should have it in front of me.
Okay.
Oh, and then the beginning part of it is just the help in deciding what childcare is best for you, potentially. Things that maybe you didn't think about. I actually used to nanny, and then I've had daycare experience, and I've worked in education, and now that I'm a therapist, I've worked as a school counselor. And then I did some additional research, and then plus just listening to my clients, many of them were like, oh, I didn't ask that. I mean, I'll have a session with them like, okay, so you go back to work in a couple weeks. Like, what's your plan? And there's a lot of things they're like, oh, and so I'm glad that I'm having those conversations with my clients, but I also am hoping to get the word out bigger so that people can kind of like weigh their options, think about what is the best fit for them. Some people just choose daycare because they think that's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes nannying is a better option, to have someone come into your home. They can help you cook. They can help you clean. Although the cost may be a little bit more, the weight it takes off of the mental load of the mom might be worth that extra $100 a month or $200 a month, right? If you can afford it.
Right.
So it just kind of goes over like a checklist of like, what are our family values? What do we want? What's best for us? What do we actually need in childcare? And I hope it is helpful. It's pretty comprehensive, I feel like, but it'll come out soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
Yes,
hopefully we get to pair the launch of the guide with the episode, and it can be like
it's almost done. So keep me updated. Yeah. So I'm doing that. Yeah. And I hope to create a couple more guides. The next one I think is going to be, the other really, really prevalent thing is how your marriage changes and your partnership changes postpartum with like communication. There's a lot of tension postpartum. So I'm going to really kind of create a guide for couples. Yeah. Because I don't really work with men. I have referrals, and I'm happy to like do like a couple sessions to resolve some conflict. But I wanted to provide something for marriages or couples, if you're, or partnerships, if you're not married yet, have kids, that you can kind of work on with your spouse too. So some like at home.
I think that's a very important, I mean, all of it is very important. Yeah. But that piece I feel is the one that's not talked about enough. Yeah. We were with some friends last week, and this kind of conversation came up, and the husband said, I know that what she went through and giving birth and I know that for her was physically demanding, mentally demanding. I saw it, I lived it. And when she was pregnant with their second, she went through a very devastating loss. She lost her mom in a very tragic way. So he picked up a lot of the load and tried to help a lot. And I said, I don't want to sound, I'm paraphrasing now, but he didn't want it to come off wrong. He said, but I struggled too. Even with the first baby before this tragedy, he's like, we're also losing sleep. We're also trying, especially if you're a very involved father. It can take a toll on men too. And it can I'm seeing, full transparency in my partnership, some challenges. And I think that he needs to take care of himself now. And we kind of talked a little bit about it this morning, where I said, maybe it's time for you to maybe seek a little help on your own. Doesn't have to be on both of us, but if you're feeling this kind of stress, if you're kind of having these moments where you're feeling kind of like depressed, if you're maybe drinking a little bit more than you used to, those are all things that are indicators that something is not right. And I don't think it's a reflection on necessarily our relationship or he loves his son, he loves me, but it also takes a toll on them. Now he's a provider in a sense. Now he's the man of the house. He has to make sure that he has, financial stability to make sure that we can make changes around the house, or we can go on these trips. And that can take, from a man's perspective, it can take a huge toll emotionally too. And no one talks about it. Yeah. Men don't talk about it.
No, they don't. Not Texas men for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of Texas men don't believe in therapy, but total generalization, just we're kind of they're kind of the pull our bootstraps up kind of guys.
Yeah.
I think it is important. The guys do struggle. Everyone's losing sleep, and to an extent, the wife or the partner, the girlfriend, whatever it was you were kind of all theirs before, and now there's this shift of you're as the woman thinking primarily about the kid, and he's in a little bit of competition for you and your time, and some of that as well. Like you said, shifting into provider, protector. It's not just about him providing for himself or himself and a partner anymore. This is like a kid, now we cannot fail is how guys feel a lot, right? Women feel that to an extent, but I think innately guys feel that pressure more because they also feel like if something doesn't work out for you as the wife or the partner, like it's on them, it's on the guy. And, you know, men can struggle from postpartum depression too at pretty close rates to women actually.
Yeah.
And they tend, like you said, they tend to kind of not talk about it. And so then it's like, push it down, push it down. So guys will have, or men will have a lot of like physical symptoms sometimes, and women do too, for sure. But you'll see, you know, some things in guys, and like you mentioned too, maybe they're drinking a little bit more, maybe they're isolating, dissociating, maybe they're on their video games more, maybe they're out with their guys a little bit more. And, you know, they're trying to cope in the way that they know how. And so if you see some of those signs as like the partner, rather than like jump right to blame, which is sometimes like, you're always out with the guys, you're always you know, here I am stuck with the kid. Maybe ask and get curious, like, hey, are you doing okay too?
Yeah, I think that's what happened this morning, and I'm, you know, it's funny that we're talking about it, but and I kind of brought it up.
Yeah,
but it was and I think I had a moment of reflection of like, okay, he just brought up something, because he was the one that said, I'm, you know, I have my moments where I feel depressed. And he has never said that to me before. And so that to me was a little bit of a red flag. And I said, okay, maybe it's time to consider help. And I thought about it. I'm like, you know, I need to and he's gained some, to me, he looks great. Yeah. But he has to gain some weight, and he feels it. His pants feel tighter, and he's like, I've never weighed this much in my life. And so, and again, he's not a fat dude.
I've seen him.
He's perfect. Like in my mind, he looks amazing.
Little stud muffin.
But he, you know, looked just like I did. I didn't feel good, so I resorted to modern medicine, and you know, and here I am. I'm feeling much better. So, but it did make me pause for a second. I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to pay attention to him. And it doesn't mean now you just focus on yourself and you kind of like don't help me, but I'm going to be more conscious of making sure that if you need that time alone, maybe encourage you to do things that are more aligned with like your well-being versus like, look, he plays golf all the time. I'm not taking that away from him. That's his hobby. He loves it, and it makes him so happy. But with that comes drinking. And
usually.
And so my plan this morning was, okay, maybe I'll encourage him to, maybe I can pick up the baby from daycare, and then he can go to work out and have that hour to himself, and making sure that I hold him accountable to that too, so that he knows that it's important for you. It's important for me to give you that time. And I'm here to support you. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. These are just things that I'm thinking, but it is important. And when we had that conversation last week with our friends, I was like, you know, we really don't always talk about the men's perspective. And he was just so honest. He's like, I love my wife. Like, I'm so impressed with all the things that she's juggled, and I don't want to take that away from her. I just feel like sometimes men don't talk about it. And I was like, thank you for saying that, because I think as women, we need to hear this. Because that makes you being vulnerable makes you more understanding of us. And makes us so much more feel closer to you, because once you tear down those walls of like, I'm a man, and you know, we don't feel shit. It's just like, it's nice to see the human behind the masculine persona. So I actually want to have them all on the podcast and talk about it. So I told it, obviously we were at a Rangers game, and he was getting a little, you know, very open. And I was like, you want to be on the podcast? He's like, yeah, but we'll see. Course, I caught him after a few beers.
Of course, I think it'd be great for you to have some guys on the podcast. I'm always, you know, even though I work with women, I try very hard to take men's consideration into, like I try to consider like the men's perspective. And it's exactly what you're saying, is communication postpartum for men and women is like tenfold. And I think that's why I have this passion for this guide too, that I want to develop here, and hopefully by the end of the new year, because it's really important to think about what you're saying, how you're saying it, when you're saying it, just like it is for a woman. But, you know, as women, we are carrying a lot, and we're carrying a lot of the mental load, and it's really easy to jump to being critical of the guys. And so we really have to take a step back and think about, this is my child's father or children's father. How can I get creative with the way that we're talking about things? Because if you'll be able to tell right away if you go into the conversation with him and you say something or you ask a question and he's like, I'm fine. What are you talking about? we got to change the approach because he's probably not fine.
Yeah.
And I just think you have to talk about things, all things, and start talking about them a lot differently and a lot more than you did before having a child.
Yeah.
Because it matters so much. You guys are the role model for the kids. You guys are no longer just kind of selfishly in a relationship, if that makes sense. Now you've got your kiddo to think about. That takes a lot of time. You don't get to just say, hey, hon, I'm going to go golf today. Like, no, who's picking up the kid? And like, how are we arranging all of that?
And it's not about asking for permission, because I think that's what sometimes men feel like, well, I need this time. Like, I don't want to ask you for permission. And it's like, no, it's just consideration.
Yeah.
Is it okay for you to carry the load? Like, I have a work trip for 3 days. Are you okay for me? I mean, so, work trips are, you kind of have to go to them. Yeah. But for example, I'm going to New York first week of October, and I extended it one day because I wanted to see some friends. I travel for work twice a year. So it's not, Tanner travels for work more often than I do.
Right.
And I know that we can't kind of like decide on these dates all the time. We either depend on like the company dates or client dates, whatever. Yeah. But it's just keeping in mind, like, hey, I know you had 3 days with the baby. It's not about, of course I want to be with my son, but I'm now left with one set of hands that's not here anymore. Yeah. Mind you, I have my mom here now who's very helpful, but she has a life too. And I can't always depend or ask her to be like, if Tanner's out for 4 days, she's not going to be there for 4 days. She'll come help me one day. Yeah. And I think it's sad. It's just like, hey, this is what I have upcoming. Does this work? And I would like to squeeze in a golf or a girls' day or a brunch, and I'm going to be out for 6 hours. Are you okay with that? Yes. So it's just having the conversation versus feeling like you're asking for permission or feeling like you're, I don't know, trapped in a sense.
Yeah. Well, and it can feel really businesslike. And to an extent, that is what parenting is for a little while. Yeah. Is you're pulling together the calendars, things that I recommend to my women for their families when they're struggling is like have a weekly 30-minute like check-in for like a Sunday or something. Make it Sunday fun day. Maybe it's an hour and make it fun. I don't know. If you drink, have a glass of wine. If you don't, get a special treat, like make it fun. But each Sunday just say, hey, what's this week look like for you? What does this week look like for our kids? And how do we come together on this? Where do we need support? What are you feeling like you need this week? Are you depleted? Do you have energy? Like, where are you at? And maybe you're like, I'm struggling. Like, I feel really like I need some me time. And so then together, collaboratively, you decide, okay, Wednesday we have some time here. I'll watch the kid. You go get your nails done, do what you need to do so that you can fill your cup up, and vice versa. I think it's just like this temperature check of like, where are you at as we go into this week? If it's not weekly, try to do it monthly. It does feel like a business meeting. That's why I say make it fun. Yeah. And then afterwards hug and kiss and be romantic and have emotions in your relationship. Yeah. But, you do. You have to really work together collaboratively to get your needs met because there's not as much freedom as before when you didn't have children. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. And I have like a little note thing on my phone. Yeah. And you kind of mentioned this a little earlier about people like grieving either this idea of motherhood or grieving life before motherhood. Yeah. Yeah. That has been a big one for me where I love my son, and I know like I don't think that we have to clarify that, but I also want to be very honest. Like, I wish I would have been more appreciative of my single life and would have been, instead of focusing so much on finding the right partner or maybe dating or whatever, I wish I would have just been more, wouldn't have taken it for granted because as much as I love my life now, there are moments that like having those business meetings to me is like, like why? I just want to go to the gym and then have a mimosa and then go get my nails done without having to tell anyone or ask anyone. Yeah. But it comes with, it's how we say in Spanish, unas por otras. Like you just have to give up some things in order for others to work. I love that. So obviously it's part of it, but I had a point with all this. Just like the grieving part, like recognizing that it's okay to miss some of that without necessarily that meaning that you don't appreciate what you have now, and that these business meetings are necessary for you to maybe get back to that point where you can now feel like you have a part of yourself back. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the grieving part of motherhood is something that is not really
talked about or recognized too. And I think this can go both ways for men too. So I'll apply this to both genders. But I think women have to sacrifice a lot to become moms, including their hormones, their bodies, among, other things, including a lot of freedom and things that also the husband or the dad has to grieve as well. But when you go into motherhood, sometimes you and I actually have similar stories. It was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
So you're not like, oh yeah, like, I mean, of course you're
There's
excited.
no planning. There's no
Right. And I think even if you do plan, this is a part that I, came to acceptance with too, is even when you do plan for how your motherhood is going to go, usually doesn't go that way. So there's some parts of your previous life, like you said, that you have to grieve, parts of your motherhood that maybe don't go as you had planned, that you also have to grieve. And I think like honoring that is so important, and really kind of sitting with the grief and understanding where it's coming from. Because what I hear from a lot of moms is this grief for like my loss of freedom, my previous life. I don't have time to exercise. My marriage is suffering. I have no like freedom to go do what I want to do in the day. Of course we love our kids, right? But that's the reality of the sacrifice we make when we become parents. And so looking at that grief and saying, what is coming up for me most? Like, what am I missing the most about my previous life? Or what part of motherhood that didn't go as planned is hardest for me? See if you can get closer to it. We can accept that it may not be the life we used to have, the body we used to have, the motherhood journey we desired. But there are some things that we can kind of put into the mix slowly that will help you cope with that grief. When we think about our past self, I know for me, I was like very like active, and I had a lot of time to do some hobbies like photography and some things like that. I am to an extent, I'm grieving some of that because I don't have time for that right now. But I can create space every once in a while for some of those things to bring a little bit of myself back into the picture. So it's kind of looking at the grief too and really exploring it. And I think people don't talk about that a lot.
I think another thing that has helped me is when I put Palmer in daycare, even though he started at the beginning of the year, it took me maybe 3 or 4 months to really start taking advantage of my mornings. So my mornings are my time. I have from the moment I drop him off until 10:30 or so, 2 hours to myself. So really, even though I would want more time and I would like to go in the afternoons and go get my nails done, it's really focusing on okay, this is what I have and this is still really, really valuable for me and it's helping me. And it's allowing me to take care of myself. So yes, right now I can't do the afternoon thing all the time, but eventually you might be able to. And it's also understanding that nothing is going to stay the same forever. Your kids are going to grow. They're going to evolve. They're going to start doing after school activities. They're going to be in school Monday through Friday. And so you're going to start regaining some of that back. So it's really knowing that there is a bit of a North Star. And even the after school activities you might have to be part of, but there are also after school activities that you can just drop them off and you have that hour again to yourself and you can use that for the nails or whatever, or go read a book or whatever it is that you want. So it's just knowing that life will help you get back to that point. It might just look a little different.
Yeah, it's going to shift and it's going to transform as you go through motherhood. And I think I've seen that just in my own journey, but I mean, walking alongside my clients too, I feel part of what I love about what I do is I learn a lot, from my clients and their journeys, but it's such an honor to hear their stories too. It's just this full circle kind of healing that happens. It's really kind of neat. I just feel really privileged. But with that being said, it is a transformation process, from all these different phases, and Grace being so little and co-parenting and her in this school now that, she's thriving. She's Miss Independent. Bye, Mom.
Good.
Yeah, she's cruising in with this backpack as big as her. And she's from carpool line. She's not even looking back or waving at me. She's just so well adjusted. So, I know it's really good for her. And again, there's grief in that too. Gosh, yeah. Grieving the season that we're in for the new season, I think motherhood is full of grief, but it's full of joy and watching them grow is really a beautiful thing too. We're not ready for the next phase, but
but we're ready to.
But we're ready. Yeah.
It's you're constantly battling between missing them when they were little, but now seeing them where they are. Palmer is also starting to repeat words and knowing words in Spanish and in English, and he is so active and he's silly and he's loving and he's a bit of a heartbreaker. I can already tell. He's very flirtatious with the teachers and the girls in school.
That is funny.
And the same thing, like when I drop him off at school, not even a thought. He doesn't even look back. And I'm like, all right, well, that makes me, as much as I would love for him to be like, bye, Mom, I love you.
Yes.
It's also like he's so happy here that he's just excited to start his day. So that's a huge relief also as a mom. So for those moms that are about to start that daycare journey, just try to find the right one for you and your family. But just your kid will tell you if they're happy or not.
Yeah.
And if they are, it's like, it's like a little sad, but it's also like, thank God I found a place that he or she is thriving in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think just giving it time, you know, I think the hard part is the first, couple weeks, especially of the transition. It's hard for everybody. Yeah. So just giving it time. And it is good. It's bittersweet. I literally just talked to my mom about what you're saying, what we're talking about yesterday. I called my mom. I said, Mom, I'm just so sad. Like, she doesn't wave goodbye to me. Like, it's like, so, I'm like, it's so, such a small thing. But like my mama heart, she loves it.
But then when she sees you, she's running to you.
Excited,
yeah.
Of course. Yes. So, she's just, well adjusted to this school. Yeah. And I think that is something really profound and very important. So they're we're raising them to leave us, and that is the hardest part of motherhood, right?
I hadn't even thought about it that way, but yes, we're raising them to leave us.
Yeah.
Don't leave me. You're going to be living with me until you're 50.
I know, truly, yes. I'm like, you're not getting married. Kidding.
Lock you in a room. I'm kidding. That sounds horrible, but no. I'm definitely not doing that. It was a joke.
If he's a heartbreaker, you might have to.
Oh, my God, yeah. He just likes to kiss, and sometimes when I yell at him, or for example, you don't have a boy, but I don't know if it's the same with girls. Yeah. But he gets a little aggressive sometimes, and he'll throw a little slap. He's 20 months. Okay, so he's almost 2.
Okay.
So he's very, active, and sometimes he can just get a little too aggressive. And the other day he just slapped me in the face, and I was like, that hurt, Mommy. And I was like so mad at him. And he just like looked at me. And he just gave me a kiss on the cheek and then gave me like 2 more. And then he starts like playing again. He's like, Mom, get over it. I gave you a kiss. We're fine. It's not that big of a deal.
Kids are so funny. I know. I do miss that age with Grace. That was one of my favorite ages, like 18 to 20 months until about 2.5. Not that I don't love her at this phase. Yeah. She's just like has her own mind and is very independent. And I don't know how I got a dog and a child who are not super affectionate, but neither one of them. What? I'm dead serious. I'm like, my dog is not a dog that wants to cuddle. No. If she gets in bed, she'll sleep at the foot of the bed, won't have anything to do with us. A lot of times I have to beg Grace for a kiss. She'll definitely give me a kiss and a hug, and she's a very sweet girl, but she's just kind of independent and loves bugs and just in her own little world a lot of the time. So she was much more snuggly back when she was Palmer's age. And so it's funny how they grow. And I'm really trying to embrace the independence of her as a woman. And she's outspoken and has strong mind. And as a parent,
something to foster. Yeah,
sure as a parent, that's hard. But as a young lady, I don't want to mute that in her.
Totally.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, I know. Well, we've talked about a lot. There was one more thing we have. It's been an hour, but you and I, when we met last time, we talked a little bit about your co-parenting experience, and obviously, and we talked about it in our last podcast too. So without bringing it up, your personal side, but what are maybe some, if people, and we don't have to go too in depth in it, but maybe just a little cliffhanger. I mean, we'll do part 2.
Would love to.
Things to kind of I don't think that a lot of times you prepare for co-parenting. And what are some things that maybe, and I know that you've dealt with this as a therapist, you have also
with clients.
Yeah. So what are maybe some things that people women or men or family should keep in mind when trying to, when that's the path that they decide to take or they have to take?
Yeah. Really good question. I think my experience with co-parenting was pretty eye-opening. You and I have talked a little bit personally about this. And it's such a hard thing to go through and unique. Every situation is unique. And so kind of to answer your question, there's people who choose to co-parent. There's people who need to do so for safety reasons, potentially. There's people who maybe don't choose it, but their partner does. Maybe people get pregnant and never decide to stay together, right? Because maybe it was
so
a
many
surprise.
layers. And
Lots of layers, right? And I think that can really impact the path to co-parenting as well, because it looks a lot different if you're married for a while and it's, for whatever reason, a divorce is coming, and there's collaboration in what that journey looks like and prioritizing the kids. There's high conflict situations where maybe one or both parents struggle to maybe keep the child at the center of what their decision making is. That involves a lot of court sometimes. The court system, the family court system, I want to say this so gently. It's kind of, the family court system is, you have to really present specific evidence that helps the judge see your story, because they see enough cases in a day and in their life. They don't know you from Adam. And so what you present is what they're going to go off of. So being clear, being specific. And I do kind of think the family court system is broken. That's what I was trying to say or not say. I think it's broken, and I don't know really how to repair it, but it is often tearing families apart when you've got, especially high conflict situations. It can really be a traumatic process to go through. And so on that note, I think just to more specifically answer your question, what do people need to think about? And I have lots of resources on this, but I mean, number one, it's keeping the kids at the center, because it is not about you guys anymore. And judges will tell you that too. They will say, how is this impacting the kid? And if it's not impacting the kid, they kind of don't care. And I hate to say that so bluntly, but they really keep it child focused. They try to, at least. And so, as parents, that's your job too. And so putting your emotions aside, which is very hard when you're going through this, because, we're very passionate about our children, and we're going through a lot of heartache when it comes to maybe our partners, or relief that we're not with them anymore, but we're having to go down this journey and going back to grief. There's grief that comes along with this. You really, I highly recommend get yourself into counseling, talk to somebody about it so you can stay child focused. And so that's number one, is in everything you do, say, is this in the benefit of our child? And your opinion might differ from your partner's opinion. He or she might think something is in the best interest of your child that you do not. And then you have to figure out how to handle that. But yeah, just trying to do what you can for the kids, staying focused on that. Number two would be a parenting plan. Get the dang parenting plans, folks. Okay. I work with enough clients that are like, oh, we don't really have one, or it's not very detailed, or it doesn't say this or that. Stop doing that, y'all. Seriously, if anything, now or in the future, it might be you guys are getting along right now. Oh yeah, let's agree on this. Well, what about 5 years from now when Bobby decides to date Rosie, and Rosie has strong opinions about how Bobby should raise your kids, that, from a stepmom perspective, right? Yeah. So you always need, sorry if there's any Bobby or Rosie. No. I tried to pick random names.
I don't think any Bobbies are listening.
Yes, maybe a Rosie. But so have something to fall back on, and being really specific, really, really specific. Where are you exchanging the kids? What time are you exchanging the kids? What are y'all doing on holidays? Who gets Thanksgiving? Who gets spring break? Where are the kids going to go to school? What if something doesn't work out with school? What if your kids need therapy? Who's going to decide on that? Where are they going to live? How far apart are y'all going to live? I mean, this is detailed. My parenting plan, I'm telling you.
I was going to say, do you have one available for your clients already, or do you have a place to go to?
I have a place, okay. Yeah. My parenting plan is very long, if I remember. I mean, it's well over 20 pages. And a great resource. Texas is pretty good with collaborative law.
Okay.
which I think is going to be like your parent facilitators. I highly recommend, if there's a lot of conflict in your situations, to consider parent facilitation. There's like 3 like OGs in the area. We, in my case, have one, and she's fabulous and is really focused on problem and solution, and is she has to stay neutral, which I think is important too. Is like, okay, what's the problem? How do we solve this where everybody's happy and we can compromise? You can also work with a parent facilitator before you create your parenting plan or go to mediation or go to court, so that you guys can hash out some of the details. And you're going to be paying a lot less for a parent facilitator in most cases than your attorney, and certainly more than an entire day in court. And you're probably going to get more fairness than you will from a judge, because a judge's job is probably, in my opinion, a judge's job is to make things as fair as possible. And a lot of times that looks like neutrality. So like it's 50-50, there's not a lot. They're not, until you're back in court multiple times, they're probably not going to rule otherwise unless there's like extenuating circumstances, I would say. And so parent facilitator can help you with that. Mediation can help you with that. And there's a great book called Between Two Homes by Bradley Craig. And that gives examples of what to think about for parenting plans, and what I think it gives examples in there too. I'm trying to remember. But and that's not going to maybe be the case where if there's like abuse or really high conflict, but I still think it's good even in those situations to get an idea of like, what do you even need to think about in a parenting plan? Because it needs to like step up with your kids too. There's a great Instagram account. Her name is Samantha Boss. Trying to remember if that's her like Instagram handle. I can't quite remember, but if you Google like Samantha Boss, she is someone who's really, really direct, dealt with a high conflict co-parenting situation. Her 2 kids are now teens or young adults, and then got remarried and now has young children, like toddlers. And so gets to redo, I suppose, in a certain way, but she has built her life on helping parents create, I think women specifically, but helping women create specific parenting plans. So she does like some coaching. She's got live calls. She's got lots of resources on her Instagram and on her website. So she's another one, because she's like a no-nonsense. I mean, she's no bullshit. Yes. Like she's like, she has strong opinions when it comes to high conflict too. So if you're in a high conflict situation, she's someone really good to follow. An example, she's like no phone calls, and she really keeps a child focused, because if you have I can't even speak right now. If you have a high conflict situation and you're calling your kid while they're at your high conflict co-parent's house, man or woman, they're going to interfere with the call. Your kids are going to feel some kind of way. After the call, then your high conflict co-parent is probably going to say things like, what'd your mom say? Or they're going to be hovering. Your kids are going to feel some kind of way. And it's not going to be a quality call. And so, every situation is different, but that's just an example of like where she's like, no BS.
Hard boundaries.
Yes. So number 1, keep the kids focus on the children. Number 2, have a parenting plan. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants, and then have it be detailed. And then number 3 is documentation. So again, that depends on your situation. You may have a great situation where you guys are going to ball games together and like everybody's like a happy family. That's the dream. Well, it's the plan B dream, right. I should say, where everybody gets along. But in situations where you're not, document the stuff. And I know nobody wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I'm not, documentation is not my favorite thing as well. But if there's a pattern that's happening and you want to keep your kids at the forefront of your case, you do need to document patterns of behavior. You didn't show up for your parenting time. You caused a scene with the teachers or at the school event, and, you're not paying child support, whatever it is. Document so you can then show a pattern to the judge if you do have to go back to court someday, which hopefully you don't, because it's expensive and I don't love what the judges throw out sometimes because it's real basic, and you could do so much outside of court that is better for you guys as a co-parenting family and for your kids. There's just not a lot of flexibility in court. I'm not trying to diss the family court system. I just have some, I've seen some things and heard some things, and it isn't always what it. Yeah, you don't go in thinking what happens a lot of the time. Yeah. So and neither party leaves happy a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know you talked about a part 2, but if there's other questions, I don't know.
No, we'll do a part 2 and just more focused on this. But thank you for sharing, and thank you for this great conversation.
Absolutely.
I mean, per usual, this was very enjoyable and fun. And I just want to, again, highlight how it's just nice to know that we don't always have to be on the same page and still be able to have wonderful conversations. We align on a lot of things too. And so it's just trying to find those common ground. So I'm really excited for this, and I'm really happy to have met you and that we have built a friendship, and hopefully we'll continue to do this.
I know, more hangouts in part 2.
Yes.
And I mean, it's an honor, and 2 women in business, I think, out of all the things we connect on, it's like, we really connect on business. So I think that's really cool. So it's been an honor, and I appreciate you having me today.
Of course. Yeah. Well, can you remind people where they can find you?
Absolutely. My website is Maternal Counseling Co. My practice is Maternal Counseling Collaborative, PLLC. My Instagram is at Maternal Counseling Co. I'm always up for direct emails. So my email is jennifer@maternalcounselingco.com. And there's a lot of resources on my website for families. And I text too, so my phone number is very accessible. So if you have questions, just shoot me a text too. I'm like very open and personal, and that's what I want to be as a therapist. So
you are.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you again, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks. Bye.